In the summer of 1877, a weather event of terrifying scale struck the globe. In British India's Madras Presidency, millions starved. Corpses lined the roads of nearly every village. Across the world, in America, Minnesota recorded a year without a winter. This atmospheric shift began thousands of kilometers away, triggered by a massive heating of a small portion of the Pacific Ocean. Modern meteorological models from the ECMWF indicate this exact phenomenon, a Super El Niño, is returning with devastating force in 2026. When that 1877 event hit, it added roughly 1.5 degrees Celsius to the global average. But that happened in a pre-industrial world. Today, our baseline temperature is already sitting 1.4 degrees higher than it was during those historical famines. This gauge illustrates the threat. We start with a baseline already artificially elevated by 1.4 degrees. When the upcoming El Niño adds another 1.5 degrees on top of that, we reach a compounding anomaly of 2.9 degrees Celsius. It is the equivalent of sitting in a 40-degree room and having someone suddenly switch on a space heater. This combination creates a 2.9-degree temperature anomaly, a shift without any known parallel in the history of human civilization. Look at the Pacific Ocean's normal cycle. Trade winds push the warmest surface water westward, fueling India's monsoon rains. But during an El Niño, these trade winds fail. Trillions of liters of heated water stall, flowing backward and pooling on South America. This sea surface temperature map shows the last super event in 2015. You can clearly see a massive thick band of extreme heat dominating the central and eastern Pacific. When you heat up that much ocean, you release enough thermal energy to fundamentally alter global wind currents. The moisture that usually travels to Australia and India drops randomly over the ocean instead, completely starving the subcontinent of its wet season. The timing for hundreds of millions of people get enough water to survive the summer relies entirely on the shifting temperature of a patch of sea thousands of kilometers away. The timing for 2026 is particularly dangerous. The upcoming El Niño is projected to peak exactly when India's monsoon season should be arriving. Currently, 51% of Indian agriculture relies entirely on rainfall, meaning crops will wither before they even have a chance to grow. The second layer of this collapse is the heat itself. In 2024, cities across Rajasthan and the NCR pushed past 50 degrees Celsius. The coming event is statistically positioned to shatter those records, pushing daytime temperatures to levels where human biology simply begins to shut down. Yet the most lethal threat often occurs after sunset. The human body desperately needs to cool off and recover during the night. If the surrounding air stays hot, the cardiovascular system remains under extreme stress, and the risk of a fatal heat stroke skyrockets. This brings us to the urban heat island effect. We've replaced open soil and tree canopies with miles of dense, unbroken concrete. All that concrete essentially acts as a massive thermal battery. It absorbs solar radiation for 12 hours a day, and when night falls, it slowly radiates that trapped heat back into the streets and bedrooms. By stripping away natural cooling structures and replacing them with heat-retaining materials, we have engineered cities that actively weaponize the night against our own survival. The consequences bleed from the thermometer directly into the wallet. When rainfall fails and crops die, the immediate result is a severe, widespread shortage of basic food staples. This chart tracks global food inflation. During standard El Niño years, we see upward spikes in grocery costs. A Super El Niño triggers up to a 9% spike, placing an agonizing burden on households living paycheck to paycheck. This creates a brutal divide. Those who can afford air conditioning will run their units nonstop, cooling their living rooms, while simultaneously pumping intense exhaust heat right back into the densely packed streets, further baking the working class outside. Extreme weather operates as a financial centrifuge. It extracts wealth from the poorest populations through hyperinflation and medical costs, punishing those without safety nets. In India, roughly 38 crore informal workers, delivery drivers, street vendors, and construction crews, shoulder the heaviest physical burden. During severe heat waves, these workers lose up to 40% of their daily earnings, simply buying enough water, medicine, and ice to stay conscious. Officially counting the fatalities is its own battle. Government agencies show massive discrepancies in death tolls, largely because heat waves are entirely excluded from India's list of notified natural disasters. Acknowledging the actual death toll requires the state to pay out 4 lakh rupees in compensation to victims' families, so numbers are minimized. The tragedy is that we know exactly how to lower these temperatures. Extensive data shows that protecting mature, old-growth trees can cool street-level environments by a massive 12 degrees Celsius. It is the cheapest, most effective heat shield available. Yet, across the country, ancient forests and critical ecosystems are being actively bulldozed to make way for new commercial developments and mining operations. From the mangroves of Mumbai to the Hasdeo forest, natural cooling infrastructure is being systematically destroyed. The coming Super El Niño represents a collision between a volatile climate and a political system that actively erases its own natural defenses. You cannot physically stop the Pacific Ocean from warming, but you can aggressively defend the old-growth trees in your immediate neighborhood from being cut down. You can also divest from the massive coal power grids that are driving this global baseline temperature higher. Moving to off-grid solar is no longer a luxury. Look at regions like Syria, where war has decimated the power grid. Citizens there rely heavily on affordable, localized solar panels just to keep their homes running. It is a proven, decentralized defense. At the ground level, mutual aid saves lives. Offering cold water and temporary shade to the delivery drivers and security guards working outside your building is an immediate first line of defense against fatal heat stroke. We have to adapt because the math is clear. Super El Niños will keep forming. The baseline will keep rising. For any child born today, a 45-degree summer won't be an extreme anomaly. It will simply be their baseline definition of the season.